It's the recap for Sunday, September 22nd, 2024. I'm Daniel Montoya Jr. for General Effect Media, and we have begun the official start to the 2024 competitive marching band season. Now, I know some of you might be going, we've had contests for weeks now. Well, if you haven't watched, I have equated the first 2 weeks of September for marching band similar to week 0 in college football. There are contests, there are games, they're spread out, but it really takes until week 1, or in marching band, the last 2 weeks of September, for the majority of bands to come out, debut their shows, get scores, show performances, wear uniforms, get the props out, get all the lasers and smoke machines going. So that's why I say we are here. We have just finished the 3rd week in September, the first official weekend in my book of the competitive season. We had 4 different Bands of America regional championships, 2 in the great state of Texas, 1 in New Mexico, 1 in OBETZ, Ohio. And we're also going to talk a little bit of DCI news, Cavalier news at the end of this episode. Now, this episode may be a little bit longer than you're used to with the recap, so that's why we always put the chapters at the bottom in the description or in the timeline so that you can jump ahead or skip around to whatever you want to watch. So forgiveness, it may not be your standard 15 to 20 minute episode as we add on events, and there's going to be a lot more events as we go on. It may tend to get a little longer and longer, but again, go ahead and skip around to your favorite segment of the show. I'm glad YouTube does that so people can do that. And speaking of YouTube, if at any point you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, maybe subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so you are notified when we release a new episode or a new video on the GEM channel. And if it so moves you, please leave us a comment in the comment section down below. The Kiski area fans did not hesitate to do that and let me know that I was in fact sleeping on a group. Don't worry, I'll get my comeuppance as we go on. But also, please feel free to share this video. Share it to those who you think might enjoy it, might enjoy hate watching it, all of that stuff. But with all that out of the way, let's jump in. Now, before we start diving into the recaps and the subcaptions and the breakdowns, I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about band scoring. Now, as someone who has judged BOA, has judged local, regional contests around the country, I've also judged indoor percussion, indoor drumline wins, WGI, etc. There are some similarities, but some differences across all of the things. But one thing that we all have in common are judges' sheets, subcaption integrity, ranges, neighborhoods, etc. Now, as a band person, whether you are a member, whether you're a staff, design, or a parent supporter, you may have a wide range of understanding of how band judging works. And I'm here to give you a little primer on that. You may have heard the term boxes, box 1, or she's box 5, or boy, he's really box 4 today. Boxes have descriptors. Boxes are a range of scores that you can say your music was box this, your marching was box this, the general effect was off the chain, blah, 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 blah. Right now, there are currently 5 boxes. And we have, again, adjectives, qualifiers, descriptors for each box. Box 1, which is the lowest box, the descriptor is rarely. Is that band in tune? Rarely. Box 2, infrequently. Are they marching in time? Infrequently. Realizing people don't talk like that normally. Sometimes is box 3. It's a huge range, which we're going to talk about in a second. Were the drums, were their stick heights together? Sometimes. Box 4, usually. Are they in tune? Are their releases and attacks consistent? Usually. And then box 5, the highest box, always. You may have heard the term everybody all the time. It's kind of that thing. Everybody is always releasing at the same time. Everybody is always counting. Everyone's always dutting, etc. Now, when you go into the numbers that go into the ranges that go into these boxes, the judges have these sheets that have 2 top and bottom areas, or rather they have 2 areas. They have a top and they have a bottom. They have 100 points to work with on the top, 100 points to work with on the bottom, totaling 200. Now, these are subcaptions, all right? Subcaption, this is what I judge. I judge music individual, right? And then there's the subcaption of usually repertoire, what they're doing, achievement, how they're doing. So the general, real basic version is what they are doing versus how they are doing it. So my subcaptions, you have repertoire, you have achievement, and that comes together to form my caption. So if I'm on music individual, that's an execution caption, and I'm going, what are they doing? They're playing some hard notes. They have a lot of consistency. They have a lot of compositional peaks and valleys, blah, 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 blah. That's what they're doing. Are they in tune? Are the attacks together? Is there musicality? Is there shaping? That's how they're doing it. What's the execution? You put it together, you get 200 points. If I want to give a group an 80 and an 80, no, they don't give 160 points. but that goes into the scores that you see on the recaps, the 15.5, the 16.0, etc. So 80 plus 80 is 160, 16.0. Now, what you're supposed to have as a judge in all facets of pageantry and marching arts is what we call subcaption integrity, which means you are putting the number that you believe they should get in the repertoire subcaption of your overall caption. I think they're a 14.6. 14.6. Great. How did they do it? Not quite there. I think they're a 14. You put it together, and no, it's not a 28.6, but you have 7.3 versus a 7, all that kind of thing. And really, I did it backwards. Some judges like to think in the 14.5. I like to think in the 70s, like in the numbers. So I go like, I give them 70 points in rep. I'll give them 74 in achievement, which if they're doing that this early, they have design problems. But then you put it all together, and that's a 14 point, what did I say, 14.4? That's a 14.4. That's subcaption integrity. That means I'm working in the boxes. I'm working against a rubric. Some judges continue to have done and will always do where they put the bottom number down first and then they just split it up the way they want. That's a 16. 80 and 80. 17, whatever. 76 and a 74. Right? Like, that's not subcaption integrity, because then you can't go and look and say, well, this subcaption versus this one, it doesn't even matter. The subcaptions don't matter. And you're not supposed to do that. And I will admit, as a young judge in my career a long, long time ago, sometimes I did that. You're in a hurry. You got to write your caption. Back in the day, you had to write your notes. You had to give your wrap up and the commentary, and then you're moving on to the next group. And sometimes you just go, wow, right? But you're not supposed to do that. If you're a good, well-trained, knowledgeable judge, you maintain subcaption integrity throughout. And unfortunately, like referees in your professional sports, not all of them are good, and not all of them do what they're supposed to do. Subcaption integrity is very important, the power of a tenth. If you maintain that, then you can look across and see where you actually line up and compare. But if they're just looking at the bottom number and then fiddling out the rest, they're not doing their jobs. You heard me probably speak about the power of a tenth. And I've mentioned this a number of times during the DCI episodes of the recap. But for those that understand powers of tenths, right? 15.5 to a 15.6. That's a tenth difference. 16.0 to a 16.5. That's a 5/10 difference. Understand that? Now, there are adjectives, qualifiers, descriptors for the range between groups and subcaptions. So if you see that there's a difference of 1 to 2 tenths in a subcaption, 1 to 2 tenths, we consider that very comparable. 16.0 to 16.2, very comparable. 10 times out of 10, it's probably gonna go 5 and 5. It's a toss-up, all right? If you have 3 to 4 tenths of a difference in a subcaption, 16 to a 16.4, for example, minor differences, I would say 6 to 4. 6 to 4. 10 times out of 10, 6 performances versus 4, you'll win 6 out of 4. Is that making sense? I hope so. In my head, it made sense. If you get to a 5 to 7 tenths difference, 16 up to a 16.7, we consider that definitive differences. That would be, to me, 7 or 8 wins out of 10. You meet 10 times, you're going to win 7 or 8 times. There might be the 1 or 2, but not so much. And then significant differences. If you have an 8 tenths gap or larger, 17 to a 17.8 or more, we call that significant differences. 9 to 10 out of times, you're always going to win. More than likely, it's 10 out of 10 times you're going to win. And you've heard me say probably, they're not even playing the same sport. They're in the different galaxies. If we're talking about the different ranges, if you're talking very comparable 1 to 2, it's probably like singles tennis versus doubles tennis, maybe? I don't know if that one holds up as much. Minor differences, pickleball versus tennis, ping pong, pickleball, tennis, I don't know. Definitive differences, which is 5 to 7th. Football versus football, would that work? Some of the nerds are out there going, significant differences. One of them's playing baseball and one's playing hockey. No, that's not fair. That's not fair. One's playing baseball and one's playing basketball. You still have a ball. And you have people but it's really not as close as you would think. So that's how we describe the boxes. That's how we describe the ranges, the subcaption integrities, the powers of the 10th, all of that nerdy stuff. Again, for all you band fans or band parents or people that don't understand how this, I hope this helps. If you have any other questions, let us know in the comment section down below. I'll try to answer them every time so that we can have a better understanding of how band contests work. And if I may just wrap this section up with this, there are some people that like to say you can't compare scores across contests. And I say it's more incorrect than it is correct. You absolutely can compare them. In Bands of America, in Winter Guard International, in DCI, Drum Corps International, you are not only competing against somebody, you're not only comparing somebody to somebody else, you're really competing against a rubric. If you're a well-trained judge and you understand how things work, you are taking the descriptors in your top box and your bottom box, and you are weighing the band's performance against all of those things you're supposed to, the guidelines, the compulsories. No, we don't have compulsories. You're weighing all those things together, and then you give them a score. Now, yes, when the next band comes out, if they're really close, you don't want to give them the same exact score. So that's when you start getting into the tenths, minor differences, significant, etc., all of those things. So if a band is box 4 at a regional in Texas, could you say they would be box 4 at a regional in Ohio? I think so. Could you look at the number of a band who placed in finals at MCALLEN and say, would that number translate the exact same way to the regional in Las Cruces? Not the exact same way, but you would be pretty close. You would be pretty close. Now, yes, if you have a strong upper tier of bands that does push the scores, you know, that's the neighborhoods, all of that thing. So if a stronger regional versus a weaker regional, there will be differences, absolutely. But I feel like you could look at the scores, the subcaptions, etc., and make a pretty good comparison, pretty good prediction of how a band would do at one regional versus another one. So yes, I think you can compare scores. I don't think you can compare rankings. However, you can't say just because you won at one regional means you win at the other one. One can just look at the scores and go like, eh. Now, there are caveats. One can look at the judging panels. If you had one judge missing because they were sick, for example. If you didn't have finals at one regional, for example. There are a lot of little things that could contribute to some inconsistencies in a true comparison. But I think at the end of the day, 60 to 75% chance you can predict comparables across regionals. So I think that's true. I think it's a truth. Speaking of the regional who did not have finals for the second time since 2021, the MCALLEN regional down in South Texas, North Mexico, had to cancel finals because it was too hot. And it's not because like, oh, it's too hot. Like, it was too hot. The heat index, it was ridiculous. And spoiler alert, newsflash, that's the valley. That's the way it is. Why we continue to have a regional in the middle of September in the hottest part of the state year after year, I don't know. I don't know why. Is this, I'm not even going to begin to guess why we're doing it. But second time in how many years? 4 or 5 years? You can't, I mean, can you have the show in nighttime? Like literally at nighttime. You start the show at 7 p.m.? I don't know. They got to do something. The obvious is, can they move it later? And I'm sure someone's going to go like, yeah, we'd love to, but blah, 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 blah. Hey, do you know they're opening a new stadium or renovating a stadium for UTRG football? Maybe that's something to consider. Regardless, I'm off my soapbox, but you know, like if you realize something is consistently happening and it's an issue, you might want to take a look at that. Bands of America, MCALLEN. I predicted that this was going to come down to 3 bands. Roma High School, JB Alexander, and Sonia Sotomayor. And I was close because it did come down to Roma High School and JB Alexander. Sonia Sotomayor, no, not exactly. They were 5th. This might be their 2nd or 3rd year. I didn't realize that. Might be their first BOA champion ever that they went to, and they placed 5th. Had there been finals, could they have moved up to 3rd? I think they could have moved up to 4th against Edinburgh. It was a 0.2 difference between the two, but it was a full point difference between them and Trinity. So I'm not sure that they would have proven me all the way right, but we'll never know because we didn't have finals. Now, when you don't have finals, they still do all the prelims awards because that's what the point was. But then they also take the top 12 and go like, okay, that's what our finals would have been, which is not correct. Who's saying that would have been that way? I don't think we would have had a different champion based on what we're going to talk about, but you might have had a different jumbling of orders in the 3 and below. So if we go to prelims right now, what prelims would have been? First place, Port Isabel High School, who also took visual performance and general effect. Second place, Santa Rosa High School, who took music. We go to AA, Roma High School, swept all captions, took first place. Pioneer High School took second place. Sherryland took third. Class AAA, Edinburgh High School took first. Del Rio took second. Edinburgh North took third, with Edinburgh North winning music performance, visual performance, and Edinburgh High School winning general effect. And then in 4A, John B. Alexander took first place in all 3 captions. Trinity High School took second, and Sonia Sotomayor took third. Now, if we look at the recaps, it was a pretty decisive, I remembered that word, decisive win for Roma High School. 1.8 points overall. That's pretty huge. That's significant. It's a different galaxy. It's a different universe overall. And if we look at how Roma compared to JB Alexander or other groups, well, it was again a pretty decisive win. They were 0.4 up in music individual, 0.3 up in music ensemble, for a 0.85 difference between them and the second place group. Different universe. If you go to JB Alexander, who wasn't second place overall music, they beat them by 1.1. That was an interstellar type wormhole difference between the first place and second place group overall. But if we go to visual performance, 0.4 difference for Roma in second place, a 0.3 difference for Roma in second place. Overall, a 0.55 difference, which is what, fans? Definitive difference. However, the gap was much smaller between them and JB Alexander, the overall second place. 0.4, which falls under minor differences. So right now the judges are saying Roma out-executed everybody. They were on another wormhole of Interstellar. If we go to general effect, however, that's when things get a little different. In one music general effect, Roma was up by 0.3. In the other music general effect, they were below 1.3. If you put it all together in music general effect, Roma and JB Alexander tied. So visual general effect was going to tell the story. Well, fair is fair. And JB Alexander was in a complete different universe, galaxy, wormhole of a Milky Way, besting Roma by 0.7. 0.7 in visual general effect for an overall general effect win of 0.7 difference for that. You put it all together, however, and Roma won by 1.8. A very decisive win for Roma High School, their second in a row. I don't think anything would have changed between prelims and finals if they had an actual finals. JB Alexander performed in the middle of the pack. Roma was at the very end, as was their choice. And also there was like a 10-hour difference between the two, so that is a little unfair. The gap might have been smaller, probably not 1.8, but Roma would have come out on top. And maybe Sotomayor would have proved me right and got up to third. But regardless, great showing for MCALLEN. It's unfair that this is happening to y'all over and over again. I hope whatever is keeping y'all from having a later show with much better weather. The average temperature in September is like 93 degrees in McAllen, Texas. In October, it's 82. We're 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away. I don't know. I'm just saying. If we move to west of West Texas, we get into Las Cruces, New Mexico. That was a show that took place in New Mexico at Aggie Memorial Stadium in Las Cruces, New Mexico, according to my notes that I took directly from Bands of America website. But you wouldn't know it based on how the top two groups came out, because they're from the state of Colorado. Colorado planted their flag in the state of Texas. Fossil Ridge won, just like I said they possibly would. However, it wasn't between them and Eastlake for second and first. It was Loveland, also from Colorado. Eastlake was in third place, and it wasn't even close between Fossil Ridge and Loveland, much less Fossil Ridge and Eastlake. Almost a 4-point difference between first and third. Almost a 2-point difference. Between first and second. We go to Class A. Thatcher High School, the only participant in Class A from Arizona, took all captions. Class AA. Loveland High School took all captions, winning first. Pecos High School out of Texas took second. Centennial High School out of New Mexico took third. In AAA, Fossil Ridge won and took all captions. Oregon Mountain placed second. Volcano Vista placed third. And the lone participant in Class 4A, Eastlake High School, took all captions. If we go to the breakdown, this was another decisive win, a 1.850 difference between first and second place. Interstellar, they went to the farther planet on this one. It was a big win. Fossil Ridge took all subcaptions except for one. Music General Effect by C. Armbruster. They were just down by 0.3, but they won Music Individual by 0.3, Music Ensemble by 0.4, Overall Music by 0.35, Visual Individual by 0.9, Visual Ensemble by 0.5, Overall Visual 0.7. Again, they did not win the first General Effect Music. They were down 0.3. Second Music General Effect, they were up 0.4. They won Music Effect Overall by 0.2. Close. Visual Effect, they won by 0.6. That was definitive, not significant. But overall General Effect total, that was significant. 0.8. Fossil Ridge proving me kind of right by taking this contest. They grabbed it by the throat and said, your state is ours. I know I keep saying I keep thinking that like Las Cruces and El Paso, they're so close to each other. Las Cruces is New Mexico. El Paso is Texas, but they're right there. So we'll call it the ELCP. So Colorado planted their flag in the western part of Texas / eastern part of New Mexico. Good for y'all. Good for y'all. And thank you for kind of proving me a little right. Not all the way right, but close enough right. Now, before I get my serving of humble pie, if you want to support us in any way here at General Effect Media, you can do it one of two ways. Number one, you can go to General Effect Media, the store, and purchase one of our nice gem t-shirts or General Effect, the brand t-shirts. We have logo stuff, we have band stuff, we have bandy things. We're going to be adding some more stuff as the season goes on. You can purchase a shirt, purchase multiple shirts, purchase all of the shirts, and all the profits after administrative fees are shared with all of our content creators. But if you're the type that would rather just donate money, you certainly can do that at coffee, ko-fi/General Effect Media. You can donate as little as you want, as much as you want, just like buying a shirt after administrative fees. All profits are shared with our content creators, which is great because this is all a labor of love. It's all volunteering. It's a hobby. It's a hobby. Soon we'll take over the world. But for now, it's a labor of love. So if you'd love to support us, one of two ways, we'd really appreciate it. Now we go to the Fortress OBETZ in OBETZ, Ohio. It's not that I slept on Kiski area, which many people let me know I was going to do and in fact did do in the comment section. Please keep these comments coming. I love them. I think they're great. It was a tiny, I overlooked Kiski area. As I looked at the list of the competing bands, I was like, oh, that kind of thing. Go, okay. Admittedly, I glanced at this list not as much as I would have looked at other lists in depth. I apologize to the area of Kiski for that. But the good thing is, as someone put in the comment section, which I absolutely love, an underdog is a hungry dog. And I'd like to think y'all did this to stick it to me. So thank you, and you're welcome for that. But yes, Kiski area had a good win at this competition. It was by 0.50 over Lakota West. I thought this was going to come down to Lakota West versus Centerville. Lakota West did what they did. They were close. Centerville, not so much, 6th place. So this is I was more wrong than right. I was definitely more wrong than right in this. Now, if we look at the overall results, Kiski area got 1st place, took music, and they took general effect. Lakota West got 2nd and took visual. It was a 0.5 difference. 0.5 difference. Definitive differences, but we'll talk a little bit more in a second about the subcaptions and all that stuff. We get to prelims. Class A, LaRue County gets 1st. They take music. They take general effect. We get to 2nd place, Norton High School. We take place 3rd, high school. We get to 3rd place. Boy, St. Clairsville, Ohio's got 3rd. They took the outstanding visual performance. Class AA. Well, Kiski area swept the captions. Campbell County took 2nd. Thomas Worthington High School got 3rd. 3A, Prospect High School took 1st as well as general effect. Beaver Creek took 2nd as well as music performance. And Kettering Fairmont High School placed 3rd. However, taking the visual performance caption was Lindbergh High School out of the great state of Missouri. And then in 4A, Lakota West swept all captions, taking 1st. Westfield High School got 2nd. And the aforementioned Centerville High School took 3rd in 4A. If we look at the finals recap, pretty decisive in terms of placements. Kiski area took 1st in music performance, took 1st in music ensemble. Overall, they took music by 0.1. 0.1, very comparable, as we say. In visual individual, 0.1, they took that. However, in visual ensemble, Lakota West took ensemble music by 0.3, which was minor differences. Overall, the visual performance caption did go to Lakota West by only 0.1. Very comparable. Close enough. Close enough. Right now, in music and in visual performance, it is a 5 out of 5 times it could go completely the other way. 5 or 6 times. So far, execution-wise, you could say Kiski and Lakota pretty close. But then we get into general effect, and that's where the separation happens. You have Kiski area 0.5 above second place in Music GE1. You have 0.1 difference in Music GE2. Overall, 0.6, which we consider definitive differences. So Music GE, Kiski area's got it over Lakota West. They are saying, Kiski, we enjoy what you're doing musically definitively more than the next group. But then we get into visual general effect, and they're saying, Lakota West, we like what you're doing. Very comparable to Kiski, but we like you more. 0.1 difference in visual effect, which went to Lakota West. However, overall, GE 0.5 went to Kiski area, which was definitive differences for an overall win of 0.500. That is considered a definitive difference between the two. I will make sure I read things a little bit more fully, fully, before making some thoughts, especially in some areas that I may not be as familiar with all of the groups. I've heard of a great deal of these groups through Grand Nationals, through WGI, through just regular marching band, all that kind of stuff. But admittedly, I probably should have paid a little bit more attention to the participant list as opposed to the results from last year and whatnot. So congrats, Kiski area. Please don't stop commenting and schooling me. I hope this continues to be a fruitful and positive year for y'all. And maybe I should just pick against you all year. I'd like to think I took a small part in your victory this weekend. And then we're back to Austin. Austin or Round Rock, I don't know. I copied these directly from Marching for Music for All. Round Rock, Texas. The Kelly Reeves Athletic Complex. Round Rock, Texas. I am the biggest. Your mailing address tells you what you are. Are you Austin or Austin area? The CRAC, KRAC, has an Austin mailing address. BOA called it the Austin Regional, but then they say Round Rock. It's not hard. Google Maps. Google Maps. I predicted that this regional would come down to Cedar Park, Rouse High School, and Round Rock High School. Well, it did come down to Cedar Park and Rouse. In 3A, Round Rock not to be seen in the 4A preliminaries. Round Rock in the bottom half. And the Vandegrift Vipers doing their best to relatively quiet, if not at all quiet. They didn't comment. I didn't hear anything from anybody. And I have plenty of friends who have kids there. I have plenty of kids there who I've given shoes to. All of them were just quiet. And they said, we're gonna do our thing. And boy, did they do it. Boy, did they do it. The Vandegrift High School returned to Austin as the regional champions. Last year it was Rouse. This year it was a significant victory, significant, decisive. If the other regionals, if Roma and Fossil Ridge were like, let's say they're the second planet that they go to further away in Interstellar, Vandegrift went to the last one that Anne Hathaway was at, and that Matthew McConaughey was going to go. Boy. Vandegrift won. They took all captions. 84.550 to an 82.5. Cedar Park, Rouse 81.8 in third. I got the second and third right. In a way, I was 2/3 right. I said it was going to come down to 2 out of 3 groups. If I just put Vandegrift instead of Round Rock, I would have been right. I know better next time. Class A, the only participant, Gatesville High School, won all captions, and they won. There was no AA groups at this show. If you were a AA group that thought, I'm not going, you missed out. You missed out on possibly even making finals. AAA, Cedar Park High School won first, took all captions. Rouse took second. Leander took third. AAA, they should just rename it the Leander ISD classification. And then in 4A, Vandegrift High School took first, took all captions. Cedar Ridge took second. And then Vista Ridge took third on there. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I obviously I've proven I'm wrong. There were 15 groups that went to this show. 15 groups. You take 12 finalists, you have 3 left. Of those 3, one of them was the Class A champion. You sent 2 bands home. Why didn't you just have all 15 play? I don't understand. I get it. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not. I know people. I know they make the decisions that they make and they do what they do. Where does it stop? I totally get it. If there were, honestly, you could have done one of two things: take 10 finalists and call it a day, so that you're sending home 5, or just take all 15. I realize you're going, well, we took 12. We can't take all 15. I get it. But if you are for positively life-changing experiences, which I know you are, and the people involved all believe in that, take 15 or only take 10. Let's break it down. All right, so this was a little bit more like spotty in terms of, well, not really. I'm sorry. I was just looking at all the people I highlighted. Vandegrift took everything except for one sub caption. The very first one. But this is pretty huge. Vista Ridge took first with a 17.4. Vandegrift took second, 17.2. So they were negative 0.2 in music individual. However, in music ensemble, Vandegrift was up 0.1. They took overall music 0.05 above Vista Ridge High School. Vista Ridge, brand new director. You heard me talk about that, Robert Herrings. One of, if not the greatest, not only middle school band directors in the history of the world, but band director, period. He is now the head director at Vista Ridge. So the kids that he trained for 3 years and etc. are at Vista Ridge. So he's there. So good for them. Music. Almost had music. They had a 17.4 in individual, but then a 16.0 in ensemble. I imagine the 17.4 was a little high, but I don't know. Regardless, 0.05 away. As close as you can, well, there's a little closer if you start getting into half tenths. But regardless, visual performance, Vandegrift up by 0.2. Visual ensemble up by 0.2. Overall, by 0.6. Definitive difference. They were very comparable to Vista Ridge in music. They were definitively better than everybody else in visual performance. You go to general effect, music general effect, 0.2. First judge, 0.3. Second judge, 0.7. Overall in music general effect. Still definitive difference. Almost significant difference, but we're going to get there. Visual general effect, 0.2. 0.2 above the second place group, which was Rouse High School. Overall general effect, 0.9. That is a significant difference. Significant difference in general effect. You put that all together, you do the math, and Vandegrift won by 2.050 points. The biggest win of the weekend. 2 points. Over 2 points. This was the third planet in Interstellar. We're passing Roma and Fossil Ridge on that second planet. Yikes. It's a big victory for them. Now, I have seen videos of them. I didn't see the video from this weekend. I was too busy supporting the Longhorns this weekend, as one does. Texas State had the weekend off. Central Michigan did what they're supposed to. I've seen them, and if they are winning right now by 2 points with a show that is arguably the hardest, maybe not even arguably, the show is hard. It's messy. It is messier than maybe a Vandegrift band has been at this point in the past, other than their beginning years. If they're winning by 2 points right now, yeah, woo, good for them. If they continue their trajectory, good for them. I love big swings. Even if you're shooting for a home run and it's a foul ball, or you swing and a miss, take a big swing. Go for it. They're putting the Porsche in fifth gear. Do Porsches have 5 gears? 6 gears? I think they're putting in fifth. I think they're putting in the 6th gear. I love that. That's one of the things I've loved so much about Hebron is push it, punch it, right? Punch it chewy. I think Vandegrift, they said, all right, we can punch it too. And boy, are they. Woo! It's going to be a lot of fun at the end of the season. State marching contest, BOAs, all those things. Sometimes I go, is it too much band? And then I think, I'm literally recording videos talking about bands. So we'll be back next week talking about BOA. We're not leaving. We're not done. But we'll be back next week to preview the shows for next week and to break it all down on Sunday. But before we wrap things up by talking about the Cavaliers drumming bugle corps out of Rosemont, Illinois, if you want to read some really nerdy stuff about general effect, about band, about winter guard, about percussion, about all those things, we started off as a Substack where you can read things. There's articles, editorials, opinions, all those things. You also get notified when we release a new video or a new podcast or anything like that. So it's almost like just finding one way to find out when new stuff comes out. Please give us a subscribe. We'd totally like that. Substack.generaleffect.media, I believe, or General Effect Media. It's down there. It's in the description below. But if you would much rather look at videos and photos and memes and whatnot, our Instagram page is run by the younger, cooler, hipper people at General Effect Media. Not me. If it was, well, I don't know if my memes would be that funny to you. They make me laugh, and that's what's important. So if you want to follow along, more than just a YouTube channel, well, Substack and the Instagram page. And finally today, I gave you a big hint that a big announcement was coming by a big time free agent in the drum corps design world. But I only knew about one of these. Whoa. The Cavaliers announced their design team for this year, this coming year. And it's huge. Huge in a way that I was not expecting. Now, the Cavaliers are my second favorite drum corps of all time, mainly because my brother marched them in the early 2000s, and that got me into it. I liked their 92 show, 95, some of their shows, but once Saucedo was right, and once that Saucedo, Coder, Michael Gaines, Eric Johnson, Brett Kuhn team was all together, I was sold. So they're my second favorite drum corps. And I you know what, as a fan, you're always like, the last few years haven't been that great for them. And they're making some changes, and they're making the biggest of changes that I think move the needle. And spoiler alert, I think this design team announcement, understanding that you have to get kids there. You have to have kids to audition for the color guard. You have to have kids audition for the horn line, for the percussion section. Percussion sections are usually fine across the board. Understanding also you've cut your potential auditionees 52% because it's all male. And this is not that discussion. I'm not having that discussion. That's not what this is about. But you got to get the kids. So if we assume the kids come and the kids are good and they're drawn in by this, I think this type of staffing announcement, especially 4 of these names, puts them in the Santa Clara Vanguard Mandarins conversation of placement. That's the 6th and 7th place. I think this instantly, on paper, puts them in the 6, 7, 8 without even having a show. But that's not saying anything about Santa Clara or the Mandarins. But you are talking about 2, without a doubt, just big names in DCI design. And I've decided to take a different approach talking about this. We're not going to talk about biographies. We're not going to talk about what they've inherited. I'm going to use a baseball metaphor, analogy. I think I used it earlier when I was talking about spreads, subcaption spreads. If we have a batting order, it's nine players. They have a batting order. And I played baseball for a long time. I was never good enough to go pro or even play for my school. I played Optimus League baseball. But, you can look at the batting order of where they put people. And you look at this, and there were 12 names on their announcement. 12 names. And we can talk about if that's a too many cooks kind of situation. Don't know. But they all decided that's going to work for them. And these days of drum corps design is very different. Your leadoff hitter is Rick Subel. He's going to get you on base. That's fantastic. That's a pretty significant big deal. Now, his official title is Artistic Director. Rick Subel is the Artistic Director. So he's your leadoff hitter. Willie Mays Hayes. He's going to get you on base. Maybe steal some, all right? Then your second batter up. Someone who is a solid batter who's going to bring some great mojo and great skills, some on-base percentage. WAR, is that a thing? I played baseball at a different time. Kevin Shaw, who's music coordinator and sound designer. It's pretty killer. That's second. And then you go, all right, we're building up. And then in the biggest shock of an announcement, at least with all my friends and nerds and colleagues, Pete Weber is back in the game, ladies and gentlemen. Pete Weber of Santa Clara, of Madison Scouts, and for those who are old like me, of the Glassmen, who marched and was a drum major for the Cavaliers, who is a musician, who is an orchestra teacher in Prospect, who writes drill for many a competitive high school marching band. He is the drill designer for the Cavaliers Drum and Bugle Corps. I think that if there was a Michael Gaines tree, and this is just my words, You have Michael Gaines. You have Pete Weber. This is not like there's not a hierarchy. I think Steven Estudillo is definitely in there. And there's another one, which we're going to get to in a second. But you have like the next version, the next variation, the incarnation. Like Pete Weber, the Cavaliers, is huge. He's your third batter. Now, you're probably saying, if you don't know better, but if you know at this point, well, who's going to bring him in? Who's batting cleanup? Who's going to clear the bases? Because right now, Rick and Kevin and Pete, they're on base. They get you on base. Future Hall of Famer, if not already, the man who I define as the sound of the Cadets Drum and Bugle Corps, one of 4 on the Mount Rushmore of DCI brass arrangers. Who are they, you say? Jay Bocook of the Cadets, Wayne Downey of the Blue Devils, Scott Borma of the Madison Scouts, and to be determined. This one's tough. The 4th one's tough. But I'll tell you, it could possibly be Michael Klesch. It could possibly be J.D. Shaw. It could be possibly Richard Saucedo. I don't know. That 4th one, I'm not really certain. But Jay Bocook in the 4 Horsemen, he's your cleanup hitter. He brings them all home as the new brass arranger for the Cavaliers Drum and Bugle Corps. Holy cow. There was a time in the early 2000s when people would call it the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers. The Cadets, the Blue Devils, the Cavaliers. That was your top 3. In what order they were going to be remained to be seen. It was the Cavaliers. And because we have no longer the Cadets, it's basically going to be the Cavaliers, because the Cavaliers. So you have to just this mixture. You have someone who cuts their teeth at WGI and DCI, Rick Subel, Kevin Shaw, WGI, most recently working with the Carolina Crown, Jay Bocook with the Cadets and the Blue Knights. All those really successful Blue Knight shows was working with Kevin Shaw back in the day, Jay Bocook. And then Pete Weber, who has been on the sidelines for quite a bit. This is an exciting time. And then you have 7 through 12, which we're not going to go into because there's so many different biographies, so many different roles, so many different names. You have some great hitters in the top 9. They're going to get you on base. They're going to bring these people in. And then you have some great bench players that they might give you a bloop single. They might bunt it in. Their job may be to get hit by the pitch and they may walk. But regardless, you have 12 people on here in different ranges of what they're going to bring and what they can do and how. I'm excited about this. If you are a true DCI fan and if you are someone who has been complaining about, I wish things would mix it up. You have someone who is just with Phantom and Carolina Crown, mixed with someone who was with the Cadets and the Blue Knights, mixed with someone who was at Crown and Broken City, mixed with someone who hasn't been riding but was riding drill before for Santa Clara Vanguard. Like, you have this eclectic, awesome mix. There's a lot of folks. Is it too many cooks? We'll see. I don't know. But I tend to look at this and go like, Jay Bocook, Tom Ongst, Cadets Royalty, Cadets Hall of Fame, Pete Weber, Brett Kuhn, Noah Bellamy, Cavaliers. Noah marched in the back in the day. Brett Kuhn is synonymous with the Cavaliers percussion sound. Pete Weber marched there. Prodigal Son comes home. This is insane. This is really good. Really fantastic. I'm excited to see what it does. I reached out to some of my friends, colleagues who were former associates of the Cavaliers in some way, shape, or form, and nothing but excitement. Nothing but compliments about what this main crew of the design team is going to bring. They're very, very excited. Oh, I'm excited. Let's get it. I know it's September, but I'm sure they're already writing. So if you want to send some leaks, DCI leakers, if you're out there, I'd love to hear some stuff. But anyway, that does it for today's episode of The Recap. A lot of band, a little bit of DCI. It's probably going to be a lot more band as we go on because we've only finished what I call week 1, right? But it's going to be heavy. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be hefty because look, as we look ahead into the schedule for BOA marching band events, right? We just had 4 regionals this weekend. We move on to the next weekend, which is September 28th. Des Moines, Iowa, Louisville, Kentucky, Odessa, Texas, San Marvelous, Texas, Shenandoah, Texas. 5 regionals next week. 5 regionals, a new regional in San Marvelous, in S&M Town, or San Mucus if you're from UTSA. Regardless, 5 shows to talk about, and we haven't even talked about other stuff that may pop up. DCI, WGI, marching band, pop culture in general. So, we will be back on Friday with a new episode of This Weekend in Band, where we preview the upcoming band shows. And yes, I offer my thoughts, my predictions for how that's going to go. And then we'll be back on Sunday to recap all of it. And maybe we'll discuss a little surprise that's coming down the chute next month, in the month of October, that has to do with General Effect Media and the state of Texas. So, all that being said, thanks for watching. Please check back with us. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Share the video, all that good stuff. And I will see you next week on This Weekend in Band.